allows students to ask questions that they may have based on the original material that was placed in the classroom. It's odd that you don't have a microphone built into your computer. Yes, all papers in this course are to be in APA format. There are no exceptions. So you should always use APA irrespective of anything that you may read elsewhere. And like I said, as soon as I can get the classroom open, let's see. As I've mentioned in the classroom postings, what you're doing throughout this 7 weeks of the beginning of the class is each week you're submitting a paper that represents only a portion of a much larger paper. And so while each week you're being asked only a specific part of the overall assignment, you're going to be writing that section as an APA formatted paper with a title page, with its own references. And then what will happen is you will submit that. I will give you feedback. And then based on the feedback I give you, you will then modify the paper or correct it based on those comments. Then as you move through the program, you'll evolve the assignment each week, doing a new part. And then you'll be merging those parts together so that by the end of the course, in week 7, you'll be submitting a final paper where all 7 parts of the paper you'll merge into one single paper. So you'll have to make sure that the parts flow between each other, they don't contradict each other, and they look like a scholarly paper. So that's what this is all about. You're basically writing one single paper, but in 7 different sections. And then in week 8, you do a PowerPoint presentation as though you were presenting the findings of your paper to leadership. The other way to think of this assignment is that you're basically writing a paper as though you were a consultant, telling the company or the command that you select what your findings were and how you justified them. Because it's a APA scholarly paper, each week you must have a minimum of 2 scholarly resources to justify and defend your comments. Any statements you make of fact, you must back up with citations and references, just like any other scholarly paper. I'll stop for a second and give you a chance to type any other questions you may have relative to the assignments or the comments I've made. You'll have discussion questions each week which pertain to the specific assignment for that week. There will be live meeting sessions each week. They vary. They're assigned at different times during the day to try and accommodate people that are located all over the world. So you will find that if this particular session doesn't help, or if you don't know enough yet to know what you need to know, there'll be another session next week. If you look in the announcements, you'll see when that's scheduled for. You can also email me any other questions you have, and if you have a critical need to talk to me, you can send me an email and we can set up a time for a telephone call or a meeting here at this system. Do you have any other questions? As you're thinking about it, if you go into the assignment section, and if we just open up this week's as an example, you'll see that it does give you a very detailed explanation of the type of things that should show up in your paper this week, 2 to 4 pages. This is where you're going to tell me about the company or command you're going to look at, and what the problem or situation is that you're going to research and answer. When selecting the entity, it needs to be an organization that has the ability to make the changes that you're going to propose. Granted, you're not going to actually make those recommendations to them. But for example, if someone was to tell me that they wanted to make recommendations for, say, a squad in a Army unit where they were the chief enlisted person for that squad, my argument back would be that they don't have the clout or the authority to make the changes they would recommend without higher authority. So it needs to be an organization or a size of an organization where if you are actually making the recommendations to them, they would have the authority or the ability to actually implement your changes. Does all that make sense to you so far? Do you have any other questions that I can help you with? Regardless of, anything pertaining to any part of the class. The balance of the class will operate pretty much like any other class that we have in the program. You do have the forums that you will be also responsible for responding to each week. Okay, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand by here at least for till another 20 minutes in case other students show up. If you don't have any other questions for me, you're free to move along. Otherwise, I'm just going to sit here and be quiet unless you either ask me a question or other students show up. I am recording the session, so if I get a chance, I'll upload that into the classroom so others can see specifically what we talked about. One of the things I can tell you before you pop off is make sure that you look at the grading rubric for these assignments and for the work as a whole, because in those rubric, it's the same rubric every single week. It doesn't change depending on the assignment, but it'll tell you the things that I'm going to be adding or taking points off for in the assignment, such as whether or not you used references and used citations, and whether or not they were in APA format. If you notice down here at the bottom of the grading section, if you click there, it gives you the grading rubric that I'll be using, and it's right here. So what you want to do is, and it tells you exactly how much of the grade is affected by that section. The area that students normally struggle with and lose the most points, especially in the beginning, pertains to the discussion. Let me find it right here. Here, this one right here, contents of, and of the purpose in writing. If you notice, it talks about the requirement for you to address the needs and issues of the stakeholders. Students, especially military students, struggle with trying to understand what that means. A stakeholder, as you should have learned in some of your other business classes, are all those individuals or entities that have a vested interest in the command and or company. So for example, in a company environment, that could be stockholders, it could be the bank, it could be unions, it could be the local government, it could be the employees, lower, middle, and upper management, the executives, the president of the company. They're all different stakeholders. Each of them has different wants and needs. And when you're addressing a problem within your organization, you have to address the expectations and needs of each of those stakeholders. So when you write each week's paper, it's critical that you identify, especially in week one, who the stakeholders are. And what you would normally do is you would start off in the beginning by saying, here's my problem. Here are the stakeholders that are affected by this problem. And here's how each of those stakeholders are impacted by that problem. And then as you move through your papers, each week, as you have a new topic, you'll go back to those same people, those same parts of the company, and you will provide editorial comments and evaluations based on the needs and expectations of those groups. That section's worth 30% of the grade, and often students in the beginning of this course fail to address any of that and lose all those points. Now, it's not overwhelming because they can make it up later in the course by addressing it, but I'm trying to help you at this point to understand that that's the area where most students fail, is right there and in the APA formatting of their citations and references. The other comment I can give you to help is to remind you that in scholarly writing, we never, without exception, use first person. We write them in third person as though we were an observer. You are a consulting firm that's writing about what occurred, and therefore you never write in first person. We don't write in first person because you have a tendency when you do so to give personal opinions. And in scholarly writing, we never give personal opinions. We give evaluations, expectations, and potential issues and results using scholarly research and scholarly references to defend those conclusions. But we don't give personal opinions, such as I think or I believe. So make sure that you watch that as you're writing your papers, that you don't use that first person narrative. And also make sure that you do use references. Keep in mind that in order to use a reference in APA and get credit for those references, because you're required to have a minimum of, I believe it's 2 each week that you're using as references, is to put an APA reference in, it has to be cited within the body of the paper. So you can't just list references at the end of your paper and fulfill that obligation. Each of the references has to have a citation within the body where you're showing how you're using that reference to support your position or to justify your statements. The other area where students sometimes struggle in the first week or two is, if you notice right up here at the top, it talks about theory and approaches. And students have a tendency to not go in and explain themselves as it relates to the theory and approaches that you've learned throughout this degree program. So if you're making a statement about a certain type of leadership, and let's say you're talking about using transformational leadership, then you need to have a reference and where you go in and say, and that transformational leadership as I define it comes from reference Humpty Scrump. You need to have the theory that you've learned embedded into your paper, and it needs to be done in a scholarly manner, not just by making statements of opinion. Anytime you make a statement of fact or something that implies a conclusion, there must be a citation to defend it. You can't say, for example, transformational leadership is an effective tool that allows managers to take advantage of the skill sets of their subordinates. All that's true, but that kind of a statement's a statement of fact, and it requires a citation to defend it, which means a reference. Okay. Have I completely buried you, or does all that make sense and I'm just being repetitive? Okay. Okay, I'll stay here and I'll leave you alone so you can do your thing. If you need me, I'm going to stay till 5:30 if nobody comes on board. Like I said, I have reported this and I'm going to try and upload it into the classroom so you'll be able to listen to my babbling there as well, hopefully to help everyone else. And again, let's just, while we're together, let me look and I'll remind you when the meeting is for the next time we'll have a live meeting like this. Let's see. Okay, it's going to be next Wednesday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And as you can see on your screen, those are the times for the next 7 weeks that these meetings will occur. I will attempt, if anyone shows up, I'll record them. If no one shows up, then I won't obviously record them. But and the times vary throughout the day and throughout the week for the various time schedules. So thank you very much. Enjoyed talking with you one way, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in the class. What I'm going to do is turn off my screen at this point until I see if somebody else shows up, and I'll go ahead and do some homework or grading while you're looking. If you need me, just jump in with a text message. Okay, I see your question as far as addressed. Thank you for. Okay, same to you. And if I didn't answer your question clearly, let me know. Otherwise, I'll assume we're clear. All right. This is Professor Jerry Ferguson. It appears no one else is going to join this evening for the meeting, so I'm going to close this session and stop the recording, and I will upload this for whatever assistance it may be for anyone who wanted to hear